Now, normally I'm one to say that you should always pull for what makes you happy and never to listen to the FOMO of who you should or shouldn't pull. But honestly, with Miyabi and what we've seen so far for her, I feel like just this once, I can make an exception. And I feel like now is a good time to start considering for yourself if you want to start saving for Miyabi, since we've got about a month and a half or two to start saving for her if you're starting from scratch. Now, I'll be honest, before this, I was honestly never really that fond of Miyabi. I never really understood the hype. And even now still, as a character at least, I don't really care too much about Miyabi. But from a gameplay standpoint, I just can't ignore some of these things, right? So today I'll go over the 3, maybe 4 reasons why I think Miyabi is quite literally going to be a game changer that maybe some of us should start saving for. Now again though, this is just going to be me voicing my opinion. You're free to not listen to me at all and just pull for whoever you want instead. After all, it's your polychromes. But maybe at least take this into consideration moving forward. So as I said, it boils down to 3, maybe 4 things. The first is that she is yet another Anomaly agent, especially when you consider the grand scheme of agents that we've been getting as of late and the other upcoming agents that we have. The next thing is that she is a brand new element, and the third thing is that she has that special Void Hunter symbol next to her name. So first off, why start saving now, especially considering the other agents that we have? I'll be honest, for some of you out there, when you consider the upcoming agents that we have, Lighter and Harumasa, 2 guys, you might already be saving for them. Ew, 2 males, that's 2 skip banners for me. So in which case, I don't really need to convince you. Now that being said though, for those of you who are still on the fence about Lighter and Harumasa, there is still time to, have maybe Miyabi sway your opinion, because we will probably be getting official details and reveals of Miyabi's kit towards the end of the current patch during a 1.4 livestream showcase, which will probably be during Lighter's banner. So starting from there, we will have a point where we will have more information about Miyabi to help decide on whether or not you like her enough to pull for her, or just spend it on Lighter. And then if we assume that Harumasa is the first banner and Miyabi is the second banner, that'll give you, effectively speaking, like 3 whole banners to save for if you go all the way up until the end of Miyabi's banner. Now that being said, there is a reason to believe that maybe you could pull for Lighter too, especially because since he can buff fire and ice, he might work really well with Miyabi, and that's why I say it's nice that there'll be a point in time where we will have Lighter available to still pull for him, and we will know more officially about Miyabi's kit. So during that point we can see, oh, maybe Lighter is going to be good for him, maybe I should pull for him after all. But honestly, even if Lighter does work really well with Miyabi, unless you have enough that you know you can get both or you're willing to spend money, I wouldn't risk it. I mean, let's face it, would you rather have Lighter with no Miyabi or a Miyabi with no Lighter? That's why I say start considering saving now. And then that brings us over to Harumasa, who is an attacker, and sort of brings me to the second point of Miyabi being yet another Anomaly agent. And I think this is actually a very important thing because honestly, in my opinion, it's hard to say because 1, we haven't seen Harumasa, and 2, we've only had 2 limited S-rank attackers in Shuyan and Ellen. But to me personally, I think that Anomaly characters have a lot more potential in the future and just by themselves. So that, again, that makes me think, save maybe for Miyabi instead of Harumasa, an Anomaly agent versus an attacker agent. Again though, hard to tell because we haven't seen any official details from their kits. But for me, so far, the attackers mainly have been like crit focused, and so they sort of operate within a burst window to do their damage, where you try to stun the enemy, and then once they're stunned, they have the big multiplier, so you can then have your attacker come in and dish out a lot of damage, which I mean, it works. There's nothing wrong with that. But the issue with this is that now the attacker's damage becomes reliant on how good your stunner is, which is a completely separate and different character. Because honestly, sometimes when I'm playing with like Shuyan and a stunner and Nicole, it just feels like I'm waiting for a stun period, or I'm waiting for the enemy to attack me so I can parry to get a big daze multiplier on them. Whereas with Anomaly characters though, aside from disorder procs, all of the damage is reliant on the one single Anomaly agent themselves, and their Anomaly mastery and their Anomaly proficiency. And they don't really care about stuns as much. Obviously, it's nice when it does happen so that your disorders do a lot more damage or something, but so far it's kind of been like a case of spam Anomaly effects until the enemy just disappears. And again, it's hard to predict the future with so few attack agents, but to me, it looks like there are a lot more possibilities for future expansions of mechanics on the Anomaly side than on the attack side. Which brings me to the third point, which is the fact that Miyabi is going to be a brand new element. New elements means new like special effects that can happen, and maybe even new disorder combinations that could happen. And I hate to always bring it back to Genshin, but it honestly does seem like that is a possibility, right? They implemented new elements like Dendro, which unlocked a whole different set of combinations of like Bloom, and honestly, I can't even remember the rest. And I mean, right now, disorder only just does a chunk of damage, right? But I mean, just like in Genshin, that is what reactions were initially at first. Just do a chunk of damage until Dendro came along. Meanwhile, if we look over on the what we've seen so far, attacker side, side, all we have is like crit rate and crit damage. So the only sort of expansion you can have there is the crit damage numbers getting bigger and bigger, or alternatively bigger stun multipliers. But again, that is reliant on a completely different unit as well, the stun unit. Because I feel like in the future, at least for the development side, it's a lot easier to hype up, like it's doing right now, it's a lot easier to hype up new elements and new reactions and stuff like that, as opposed to just saying, wow, bigger numbers on crit damage and stuff like that. And I mean, because we don't know how many other units are going to have this new element, what if, possibly speaking, Miyabi is the only agent ever who will have this special anomaly? Meanwhile, you look at Harumasa and Lighter, they're fire and electric. We have plenty of fire units, we have plenty of electric units. We don't know how many are going to be like Miyabi here. Speaking of Miyabi maybe being unique in her element, that brings me to the fourth point. The fact that she has that special Void Hunter symbol next to her name. Obviously, everyone's hyping her up out of game, but even in game, she has this high class of being one of the Void Hunters and stuff like that. Again, coming back to Genshin, it's like the equivalent of calling her one of the Archons. We've all known that in lore she's powerful. I mean, the first time we see her is her like one-shotting the Nineveh monster, but the fact that they went out of their way to denote her name with a special symbol makes me think that they're just giving her so much special treatment that it's like they're putting all their eggs in this basket to make sure that she has to do well. I do not see a world where she does not do well and she does not like carry the game for players and stuff like that. This is like their big draw point, effectively speaking. And also, not really related to Void Hunter and stuff like that, but in 1.4, this is where one of the big changes is coming, where they mentioned this in the past, but having the ultimates, instead of being one set 3000 decibels for one unit, apparently they're working on a change for this. So what exactly the change is, we're not exactly certain on just yet, but I'd imagine it's something where maybe everyone gets to start using their ultimates at once, which I mean makes sense, right? You have characters that developers and animators spent a lot of effort into making their ultimates and they barely ever get used. So I would imagine that Miyabi has been developed and tested with some of these gameplay changes in mind. So I don't want to like insinuate this, but it feels almost like as if it's possible that patch 1.4 and beyond might honestly be warped around how Miyabi works and stuff like that. And if that is the case, which I hope it isn't, it makes me wonder, you know, do you need to have Miyabi to be able to do everything else from patch 1.4 onwards in a comfortable manner? I would assume not. I'm sure, again, if you don't go for Miyabi, I'm sure any other S ranks will do just fine. But it feels like once patch 1.4 comes around, we will live in a post-Miyabi world in Zenless Zone Zero, where now everything will have sort of been adjusted around this baseline of Miyabi is now in the game. We have to remember that. And so honestly, for those four reasons, the fact that she is yet another Anomaly agent in a game where it looks like Anomaly is sort of being pushed, the fact that some of the other agents that are upcoming aren't really that enticing, Lighter and Harumasa, the fact she's a brand new element, and the fact that she is a special Void Hunter, even has the name symbol next to it, those are the four reasons why I think, honestly, I know I probably am, but you should probably also maybe consider starting to save up for Miyabi. And now also, this is just something I'm throwing into the end of this video because it's something I noticed personally during the Virtual Mayhem event. It has nothing to do with Miyabi herself, but I just want to put my tinfoil hat on for a second here and be a schizo. But that Bang Boo snap, I feel like there's a non-zero chance that the person using that Bang Boo to communicate to us might be a future agent, maybe even one of the virtual idols. After all, the person is communicating to us through Snap, and they always refer to the person that is stuck in the VR world, who is them, as a virtual construct. And if I were to think of who would like describe themselves as a virtual construct, I feel like it would have to be a robo-related person. And when I think of future characters that could be robo-related, I feel like it would have to be one of the idol girls. Of course though, this just could be me completely wrong and wishful thinking, especially considering that any other new agents would still be months and months away, so them teasing a virtual idol now already would be kind of crazy. But I mean, hey, this is all like for things happening months away for us. There's still so much more to learn about Miyabi, there's still so much more to talk about, but I thought I'd just put this out there as food for thought to maybe, you know, again, like I said, start considering whether or not you want to start saving for Miyabi. But let me know down in the comments below. Were you already planning on saving for Miyabi? Are you not saving for her at all? Or have recent reveals now converted you into a Miyabi believer? But as always though, if you did find this video useful, liking, commenting, and subscribing is greatly appreciated. And so until next time, bye bye.